Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyata Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishikam Vitam Sya Om Agyana Timarandasya Gyanajana Shalagaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhistam Supurkam Gurganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanugam Govinda Bidam Ujwalam Varatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Bande Vishwagurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Prem Noe Vijapradam Devam Divyatanam Suchandabaranam Balarka Shelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadekavaranam Vairagya Vidyambudim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Banditam Shivanam Mareka Sharanam Yashishvara Shidaram Vanshakopatarubyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahaprabhu Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaurata Vishe Namah. We're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is Antya-lila Chapter 3, the glories of Haridas Thakur. I'll start with verse number 144. We heard how Ramachandra Khan, who is a non-devotee and envious of the Vaishnavas, conspired against Haridas Thakur and sent a young prostitute to discredit him. But Haridas Thakur converted the prostitute into a Vaishnava. She came there and she would just listen to Haridas Thakur chant the holy name, and even though she tried to seduce him, of course he never stopped chanting, and she herself became a Vaishnava after that and gave away all her possessions and stayed near the Ganga worshipping Tulsi. So that plan went against Ramachandra Khan because he wanted to discredit Haridas Thakur, but instead of that happening, Haridas Thakur became more glorified because the prostitute became very saintly. So I'll start with verse number 144. Ramachandra Khana Aparad Bija Koila Se Bija Vrika Haya Agate Falila. By inducing a prostitute to disturb Haridas Thakur, Ramachandra Khan caused a seed of offense at his lotus feet to germinate. This seed later became a tree, and when it fructified, Ramachandra Khan ate its fruits. Mahad Aparader Fala Adbhuta Katan Prastava Paya Kohe Shuna Bhaktagan. This offense at the lotus feet of an exalted devotee has resulted in a wonderful narration. Taking advantage of the opportunity afforded by these incidents, I shall explain what happened. O devotees, please listen. Sahajaya Vaishnava Ramachandra Khan Haridaser Aparade Hoila Asura Saman. Ramachandra Khan was naturally a non-devotee. Now, having offended the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur, he became just like a demoniac atheist. He became a complete asura. Vaishnava Dharma Ninda Kore Vaishnava Apaman Bahudiner Aparade Paila Parinam. Because of blaspheming the cult of Vaishnavism and insulting the devotees for a long time, he now received the results of his offensive activities. Nityananda Gosai Gore Jabe Aila Prema pracharite tabe brahmite lagila. When Lord Nityananda returned to Bengal to preach the cult of bhakti, love of Godhead, he began touring all over the country. Prema pracharana ara pashanda dalan duikarye abaduta korana brahman, for two purposes, to spread the cult of bhakti and to defeat and subdue the atheists. Lord Nityananda, the most dedicated devotee of the Lord, moved throughout the country. Sarvagya Nityananda Taragare Asya Basila Durga Mandapa Upare. Lord Nityananda, who is omniscient because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, came to the house of Ramachandra Khan and sat down on the altar of the Durga Mandapa. Well-to-do Hindu gentlemen constructed their houses with a place called the Durga Mandapa for the worship of the goddess Durga. There they generally held worship of the goddess every year in the month of Ashwin. September, October, Ramachandra Khan possessed such a Durga Mandapa at his residence. So that's considered the outer part of the house that's separate from the house, but it's where, like the courtyard of the house outside. Aneka log jana sange angana barila bitara hoite Ramachandra sevaka pataila. When the Durga Mandapa and courtyard became filled with crowds of men, Ramachandra Khan, who was inside the house, sent his servant to Lord Nityananda. In those days, and also even now, the palatial buildings of respectable people, especially in the villages of Bengal, were divided into two parts. The inside part was especially meant for the family, and the ladies would live there, unexposed to men. That part was called the Bitarabari, or inside house. In the outside house, or Bahirbari, the respectable gentleman received visitors and kept his business office. The Durga Mandapa would be part of the outside house. Thus, when Lord Nityananda entered the outside house, Ramachandra Khan was in the inside house with the members of his family. When Nityananda Prabhu arrived, Ramachandra Khan did not receive him personally, but sent his servant to inform him indirectly to go away. Sevak bole gosai more pataila kana grihastera gare tomai diba basu basa stana. The servant informed Lord Nityananda, "My dear sir, Ramachandra Khan has sent me to accommodate you in some common man's house. Goyalara Goshala Hoy Adyanta Bistar Ihan Sankirtana Stala Tomara Manusha Apar." You might go to the house of a milkman, for the cowshed is spacious, whereas the space here in the Durga Mandapa is insufficient because you have many followers with you. Bitare achila shuni krode bahir Bitare achila shuni krode bahirila ata hase gosai kohite lagila. When Nityananda Prabhu heard this order from the servant of Ramachandra Khan, he became very angry and came out. Laughing very loudly, he spoke as follows: Satya kohe egara mora jogya noi, molecha go barakore, tara jogya hoy. Ramachandra Khan has spoken rightly. This place is unfit for me. It is fit for cow-killing meat eaters. Molecha go barakore is fit for molechas or Muslim meat eaters. Ita boli krode gosai utia chalila tari dunda dite se grame na rahila. Having said this, Nityananda stood up and left in an angry mood. To chastise Ramachandra Khan, he did not even stay in that village. Ihan Ramachandra Kana Sevake Antya-lila Gosai Jahan Vasila Tara Matik Kodaila. Ramachandra Khan ordered the servant to dig up the dirt in the place where Nityananda Prabhu had sat. Gomaya Jali Lepila Sab Mandira Prangana Tabu Ramachandra Mana Nahoila Parasana. To purify the Durga Mandapa temple and the courtyard, Ramachandra Khan sprinkled and smeared it with water mixed with cow dung, but still his mind was unsatisfied. Dashu Vritti Kore Ramachandra Rajarena Deya Kora Krudahaya Molecha Ujira Aila Taragara. Ramachandra Khan's business was questionable, for he tried to avoid paying income tax to the government. Therefore, the government's Minister of Finance was angry and came to his residence. Ashise Durga Mandape Vasa Koila Abadya Barakori Mamsha Segare Randaila. The Muslim minister made his residence in the Durga Mandapa of Ramachandra Khan. He killed a cow and cooked the meat at that very place. Stri Putra Sahita Ramachandra Re Bandiya Taragara Grama Lute Tindin Rohiya. He arrested Ramachandra Khan along with his wife and sons, and then he continuously plundered the house and village for 3 days. Segare Tindin Kore Amedya Randan Aradin Sabal Loya Korila Gaman. In that very room, he cooked the flesh of a cow for 3 consecutive days. Then the next day he left, accompanied by his followers. Jatidana Jana Khaner Sakala Loila Bahudin Parjanta Grama Ujara Rohila. The Muslim minister took away Ramachandra Khan's position, wealth, and followers. For many days, the village remained deserted. Mahanter Apamana Jay Desha Grame Hoy Ek Janara Doshe Sab Desha Ujadoi. Whenever an advanced devotee is insulted for one man's fault, the entire town or place is afflicted. So the entire town got the reaction. Haridas Thakur Chali Aila Chandapure Asiya Rohila Balarama Achar Jaragare. Haridas Thakur walked until he came to the village. Haridas Thakur walked until he came to the village known as Chandapur. There he stayed at the house of Balaramacharya. The village of Chandapur is situated near the confluence of the rivers Ganges and Jamuna at Saptagram in the district of Hooghly. Chandapur is just east of the house of the 2 brothers Govardhan and Hiranya, the father and uncle of Raghunath Das Goswami, respectively. In Chandapur lived Balaramacharya and Jadunandanacharya, the priest of these 2 personalities, and when Haridas Thakur went there, he lived with him. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that the name of the village was later changed to Krishnapur. Hiranya Govardhan Dui Mulakera Majumadar Tara Purohita Balarama Namatar. Hiranya and Govardhan were the 2 governmental treasures in that division of the country. The priest was named Balaramacharya. So is the door closed now of the stove?
Not 100%. I'll close it all the way now.
Okay. Is that shouldn't it go that way?
You want it to push down.
Oh, I thought you wanted to push up and then it would go along the ceiling and come here.
Because the heat is already up, so you want to keep it down.
Oh, okay. Right. Ah. Hiranya Govardhan Dui Mulakera Majumadar Tara Purohita Balarama Namadar. Hiranya and Govardhan were the two governmental treasures in that division of the country. Their priest was named Balaramacharya. The word Majumadar refers to a treasurer who keeps accounts of revenue. So Hiranya and Govardhan is the father of Raghunath Das Goswami. Haridaser Kripa Patra Tate Bhakti Mane Jatna Kori Thakurere Rakila Segrame. Balaramacharya, being favored by Haridas Thakur, was very much attached to him. Therefore, he kept Haridas Thakur in the village with great care and attention. Nirjana Parna Shalai Krishnara Kirtan Balaramacharya Grihe Bika Nirvahan. In the village, Haridas Thakur was given a solitary thatched cottage where he performed the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. He accepted prasadam at the house of Balaramacharya. Raghunath Das Balak Korena Adyayan Haridas Thakur Jai Korena Darshan. Raghunath Das, who was the son of Govardhan Majumdar and was later to become Raghunath Das Goswami, was at that time a boy engaged in study. He came to see Haridas Thakur daily. Haridas Kripa Kore Tahara Upare Se Kripa Karana Hoila Chaitanya Paibare. Naturally, Haridas Thakur was merciful toward him, and because of the merciful benediction of this Vaishnava, he later attained the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. Tahan Jaiche Hoila Haridaser Mahima Katan Vyakyana Adbhuta Kata Shuna Bhaktagan. At the residence of Hiranya and Govardhan, discourses took place by which Haridas Thakur was glorified. O devotees, please listen to that wonderful story. Ekdin Balaram Minati Korea Majumadarer Sabai Aila Thakore Loya. One day Balaram Acharya requested Haridas Thakur with great humility to come to the assembly of the Majhumadars, Hiranya and Govardhan. Thus Balaramacharya went there with Haridas Thakur. Thakur deki dui bai koila abhyutan paya padi asana dila korea saman. Seeing Haridas Thakur, the two brothers immediately stood up and fell at his lotus feet. Then with great respect they offered him a place to sit. Aneka Pandita Sabai Brahmana Sahajan Duibai Mahapandita Hiranya Govardhan. In that assembly there were many learned scholars, brahmanas, and respectable gentlemen. The two brothers, Hiranya and Govardhan, were also greatly pleased. Haridaser Guna Sabe Kohe Panchamuke Shunyata Duibai Paila Bora Suke. In that assembly there were many learned scholars, brahmins, and respectable gentlemen. The two brothers, Hiranya and Govardhan, were also greatly learned. So Hiranya's Raghunath Das Goswami's uncle, and Govardhan is his father. So page, this is verse number 174 of chapter 3 of the Antya-lila. In that assembly there were many learned scholars, Brahmins, and respectable gentlemen. The two brothers, Hiranya and Govardhan, were also greatly learned. Haridaser Gunasabe, Kohe Panchamuke, Shunya Taduibai, Paila Borasuke. Everyone there began to speak of Haridas Thakur's great qualities as if they had five mouths. Hearing this, both brothers were extremely happy. Okay, you find it? Text number 176 of chapter 3 of Antya-lila. Teen Lak Nama Thakur, Korana Kirtan, Namera Mahima Utaila Panditagan. It was mentioned in the assembly that Haridas Thakur chanted the holy names of Krishna 300,000 times a day. Thus all the learned scholars began to discuss the glories of the holy name. Keho bole nama hoite hoi papa koi, keho bole nama hoite jivara moka hoi. Some of them said, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one is freed from the reactions of sinful life. So they're saying, some are saying, by chanting the holy name, one is freed from the reactions of sinful life. Others said, simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, a living being is liberated from material bondage. Haridas Kohen Namer E Dui Falanoi, Namera Fale Krishna Pade Prema Upajoy. Haridas Thakur protested, these two benedictions are not the true result of chanting the holy name. Actually, by chanting the holy name without offenses, one awakens one's ecstatic love for the lotus feet of Krishna. Evam Vratasva Priya Namakirtya Jatanu Rago Drutachita Uchai Hashati Ata Rodati Roti Gayati Unmarat Van Nrityatai Anmaravan Nrityati Lokabaya Evam Vratasva Priya Namakirtya Jatanu Rago Drutachita Uchai Hasati ato rodati roti gayati unmadavan nrityati lokabaya. When a person is actually advanced and takes pleasure in chanting the holy name of the Lord, who is very dear to him, he is agitated and loudly chants the holy name. He also laughs, cries, becomes agitated and chants just like a madman, not caring for outsiders. Anusanger Phala Namer Mukte Papa Nash Taharad Drishtanta Jaiche Suryara Prakash. Liberation and extinction of the reactions of sinful life are two concomitant byproducts of chanting the holy name of the Lord. An example is found in the gleams of morning sunlight. Liberation and extinction of the reactions of sinful life are two concomitant byproducts of chanting the holy name of the Lord. An example is found in the gleams of morning sunlight. Ama samharad akilam sakrid udayad eva sakala lokasya taranir eva timara jaladam payati Jayati Jagan Mangalam Harer Nama Amha Samharad Akila Sakrid Udayad Eva Sakala Lokasya Taranir Eva Timira Jaladim Jayati Jagan Mangalam Harer Nama. As the rising sun immediately dissipates all the world's darkness, which is deep like an ocean, so the holy name of the Lord, if chanted once without offenses, dissipates all the reactions of a living being's sinful life. All glories to that holy name of the Lord, which is auspicious for the entire world. As the rising sun immediately dissipates all the world's darkness, which is deep like an ocean, so the holy name of the Lord, if chanted once without offenses, dissipates all the reactions of a living being's sinful life. All glories to that holy name of the Lord, which is auspicious for the entire world. Shlokarartha kora panditeragan sabeko he tumi kaha artha bibaran. By reciting this verse, Haridas Thakur said, O learned scholars, please explain the meaning of this verse. But the audience requested Haridas Thakur, it is better for you to explain the meaning of this important verse. Haridas Kohen Jaiche Suryera Uday Udayana Hoite Arambe Tamera Hoikoi. Haridas Thakur said, as the sun begins to rise, soon even before it is visible, it dissipates the darkness of night. So the sun hasn't yet appeared on the eastern horizon, but the rays of the sun are dissipating the darkness, and one can see with those early rays of the sun, even though the sun has not yet completely risen, is not on the horizon. But before the sun appears, there are rays of sunlight which will illuminate the darkness. Haridas Thakur said, as the sun begins to rise, even before it is visible, it dissipates the darkness of night. Choraprita raka sadira baya hoy nash udaya hoyle dharma karma adi parakash. With the first glimpse of sunlight, fear of thieves, ghosts, and demons immediately disappears. And when the sun is actually visible, everything is manifest. And everyone begins performing one's religious activities and relative duties. So, with the first rays of the sunlight, the night is over. All those beings who look for darkness in which to live, they, like ghosts and also thieves who use the night to rob, they are immediately, when the sun's beginning to rise, before the sun is even appearing, they leave. They won't be active with the first rays of sunlight. Aichina modaya rambe papa adir koi udaya hoile krishna pade hoy premodoy. Similarly, the first hint that offenseless chanting of the Lord's holy name has awakened dissipates the reactions of sinful life immediately. And when one chants the holy name offenselessly, one awakens to service and ecstatic love at the lotus feet of Krishna. Mukte tucha phala hoy, namabhas hoite. Liberation is the insignificant result derived from a glimpse of the awakening of offenseless chanting of the holy name. Okay. So here it's referring to that liberation can be had by namabhas. There are three stages. There is namaparad, namabhas, and shuddhanam, chanting of the pure name. So Haridas Thakur is saying, even before one is actually in this stage of chanting with love of Godhead, if one is even on the level of namabhas, which in many cases means using the holy name to refer to something else, like we'll hear the story of Ajamil. He's not purely calling for the Lord, but he's calling for something else. So it's indirectly, he's chanting. It's indirectly, it's not offensive chanting. It's not that, but neither is it chanting with love of God. So Mriyamanam Harer Nama Grinan Putro Pacharitam Ajamilo Pi Agadama Kim Uta Shradaya Grinan. While dying, Ajamil chanted the holy name of the Lord, intending to call his son Narayan. Nevertheless, he attained the spiritual world. What then to speak of those who chant the holy name with faith and reverence? So Ajamil was fallen, and at the end of his life, when the Avadutas, when the Yamadutas were coming from him, then he was frightened, and he called out to his son Narayan, but in so doing, he chanted the name of the Lord, Narayan, not with love of God, that he was referring to his son, but he didn't chant that name offensively. He wasn't doing any namabhas. He was just calling his son. So that was considered in the case of Ajamil to be namabhas. While dying, Ajamil chanted the holy name of the Lord, intending to call his son Narayan. Nevertheless, he attained the spiritual world. What then to speak of those who chant the holy name with faith and reverence? Jai Mukti Bhakta Naloy, say Krishna Chahidite. Liberation, which is unacceptable for a pure devotee, is always offered by Krishna without difficulty. So when Ajamil called for the name of his son, then the Vishnu Dutas appeared to protect him, even though he was not chanting with love of God, but in his youth, when he was young, he had been a devotee, Ajamil, where he followed properly the Brahminical practices, and then became degraded, but at the end of his life he did call for Narayan, and the Vishnu Dutas came to save him. Salokya Sharsti Sarupya Samip Yaikatvam Apiyuta Niyamanam Nagrinanti Binamat Sivanam Jana. My devotees do not accept Salokya Sharsti Sarupya Samipya or oneness with me, even if I offer these liberations in preference to serving me. My devotees do not accept Salokya Sharsti Sarupya Samipya or oneness with me, even if I offer these liberations in preference to serving me. This verse is spoken by Lord Kapila, an avatar of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that Kapila is saying that the devotees don't look or don't even really want liberation. But Gopala Chakravarti Nama Ekjan Majumadera Gare Se Arinda Pradhan. At the house of Hiranyan Govardhan Majumadar, a person named Gopal Chakravarti was officially the chief's tax collector. At the house of Hiranyam and Govardhan Majumadar, a person named Gopal Chakravarti was officially the chief tax collector. Gopal Chakravarti Nam Ekjan Majumadar Garese Arinda Pradhan Godevrohi Patsaha Age Arinda Giri Kore Baralak Mudrase Patsara Tai Bare. This Gopal Chakravarti lived in Bengal. His duty as chief tax collector was to collect 1,200,000 coins to deposit in the treasury of the emperor. Parama Sundara Pandita Mahatara Juvan. Parama Sundara Pandita Nutana Javan. Namavashe Mukti Shuni Na Hoila Sahan. He had handsome bodily features, and he was learned and youthful, but he could not tolerate the statement that simply by glimpsing the awakening of the Lord's holy name, one can attain liberation. Krudahoya Boli says, Sharu Shabachan, Babu Kera, Siddhanta Shuna, Panditeragan. This young man, Gopal Chakravarti, became very angry upon hearing the statements of Haridas Thakur. He immediately criticized him. O assembly of learned scholars, he said, just hear the conclusion of this emotional devotee. This young man, Gopal Chakravarti, became very angry upon hearing the statements of Haridas Thakur, and he immediately criticized him. O assembly of learned scholars, he said, just hear the conclusion of the emotional devotee. Koti janme brahmagyani se je mukti noi se kahe namabhas se mukti hoy. After many millions upon millions of births, when one is complete in absolute knowledge, one still may not attain liberation. Yet this man says that one may attain it simply by the awakening of a glimpse of the holy name. So he's arguing that Haridas Thakur makes liberation sound so easily attainable. After many millions upon millions of births, when one is complete in absolute knowledge, one still may not attain liberation. Yet this man says that one may attain it simply by awakening of a glimpse of the Lord's holy name. So he's saying that Haridas Thakur says that liberation can be obtained by namabhas, and this Gopal Chakravarti is arguing that this is an emotional opinion which is not correct. Haridas Kohen Kene Goraha Samshai Shastri Kohen Namabhasha Matre Mukti Hoy. Haridas Thakur said, Why are you doubtful? The revealed scriptures say that one can attain liberation simply by a glance of offenseless chanting of the holy name. Bhakti Shuka Age Mukti Ati Tucha Hoy Se Ateva Bhaktagana Mukti Tabu Hare Bhukti Sukha Age Mukti Achitucha Hoy Ateva Bhaktagan Mukti Nahi Loy. So let me read this previous verse again. Haridas Kohen Keni Koraha Samshai Shastri Kohen Namabhasha Matre Mukti Hoy Bhakti Sukha Age Mukti Atitucha Hoy Ateva Bhaktagan Mukti Nahi Loy. Haridas Thakur said, Why are you doubtful? The revealed scriptures say that one can attain liberation simply by a glance of offenseless chanting of the holy name. For a devotee who enjoys the transcendental bliss of devotional service, liberation is most insignificant. Therefore, pure devotees never desire to achieve liberation. Vat sakshad karana lada vishuddha vishuddhabdi stitashame shikhani gosh padayante brahmani api jagadguru. My dear Lord, O Master of the universe, since I have directly seen you, my transcendental bliss has taken the shape of a great ocean. Being situated in that ocean, I now realize all other so-called happiness, including even Brahmanda, to be like the water contained in the hoofprint of a path. in the hoof print of a calf, pardon me. My dear Lord, O Master of the universe, since I have directly seen you, my transcendental bliss has taken the shape of a great ocean. Being situated in that ocean, I now realize all other so-called happiness, including even Brahmanda, to be like the water contained in the hoofprint of a calf. Viprako he namabhas jadi mukti noi tabito maranak kati horahanisjoy. Gopal Chakravarti said, if one is not liberated by namabhas, then you may be certain that I shall cut off your nose. Haridas kohenjadi namabhase mukti noi tabe amar nak katimu e shunisjoy. Then Haridas Thakur accepted the challenge offered by Gopal Chakravarti. If by namabhas liberation is not available, he said, certainly I shall cut off my nose. I'll cut off my own nose if this was wrong. Haridas Thakur is saying, you're challenging me that if by namabhas one cannot get liberation, then you'll cut off my nose. And he says, you don't have to do that. If that were not true and I've said it, I would cut off my own nose. Shunishab sad ute kore hahakar majumadar se vipre korila dikar. All the members of the assembly who had heard the challenge were greatly agitated, and they got up making a tumultuous sound. Hiranya and Govardhan Majun Bandar both immediately chastised the Brahmin tax collector. So they were very angry with the tax collector, threatening he'll cut off Haridas Thakur's nose if his statement is incorrect. But Haridas accepted the challenge, but all the assembly of the Vaishnavas, headed by Govardhan and Hiranya Majjumadar, the father and uncle of Raghunath Das Goswami, they were there and they were very disturbed by that Gopal Chakravarti statements. Balai Purohita Tare Korela Bartsan Gata Patiya Murika Tui Bhakti Kahajan. The priest named Balaramacharya also chastised Gopal Chakravarti. You are a foolish logician, he said. What do you know about the devotional service of the Lord? What do you know about devotional service? How you can even give your opinion? The philosophy enunciated by the Mayavadis is called Gatapatiya, pot and earth philosophy. According to this philosophy, everything is one. Such philosophers see no distinction between a pot made of earth and the earth itself, reasoning that anything made of earth, such as different pots, is also the same earth. Since Gopal Chakravarti was a Gatapatiya logician, a gross materialist, what could he understand about the transcendental devotional service of the Lord? Haridas Thakur tui kaile apaman sarvanash habe dora na habe kaujan. You have insulted Haridas Thakur. Thus there will be a dangerous position for you. You should not expect anything auspicious. Shuni Haridas tabe utiya shalila majjumadar se vipre tyaga korila. Then Haridas Thakur got up to leave, and the Majjumadars, the masters of Gopal Chakravarti, immediately kicked him out and dismissed him from their service. So Gopal Chakravarti worked for the government collecting taxes, but really Hiranya and Govardhan Majjumadar were the persons of that area who were, they employed Gopal Chakravarti. So if they kicked him out, he's finished. He doesn't have his position anymore, which would result in him having some riches. Then Haridas Thakur got up to leave, and the Majjumadars, the masters of Gopal Chakravarti, immediately kicked him out and dismissed him from their service. So now no longer has his income, and he's obviously shocked. Sabha sahite Haridas ser padila charane Haridas hasikohe madara vachane. With all the members of the assembly, the two Majhumadars fell at the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was smiling, however, and he spoke in a sweet voice. Toma sabar dosha nahi e agya brahman, tara dosha nahi tara tarka nishtaman. None of you are at fault, he said. Indeed, even this ignorant so-called Brahman is not at fault, for he is accustomed to dry speculation and logic. None of you are at fault, he said. Indeed, even this ignorant so-called Brahman is not at fault, for he is accustomed to dry speculation and logic. Tarkara gochara nahim namera mahatva kata hoite janibe se e sabatatva. One cannot understand the glories of the holy name simply by logic and argument. Therefore, this man cannot possibly understand the glories of the holy name. Jahagar Krishna Koruna Kushala Sabar Amara Sambande Dukkha Nal Kahar. After all of you may now go to your homes. May Lord Krishna bestow his blessings upon you all. Do not be angry because of my being insulted. So Haridas Thakur didn't take Gopal Chakravarti's insult very seriously, just considered he was a foolish Brahmin who didn't know anything about bhakti or devotion. So what could he understand? Tabe se Hiranyadas Nija Garayaila se Brahmane Nija Dwaramana Koila. Then Hiranyadas Majhumadar returned to his home in order that Gopal Chakravarti not be admitted there. And so that means Gopal Chakravarti can't even go in the house, and that's the house of Hiranyadas Majhumadar, who is the main. He and Govardhan, his brother, I mean, they were the ones who arranged all the tax collecting. Tindin bitere se viprera kushta hoila ati uchanasha tara golia pandita. Tindin bitere se viprera kushta hoila ati uchanasha tara golia parila. Within 3 days, that Brahma was attacked by leprosy. That's Gopal Chakravarti. Within 3 days, that Brahman was attacked by leprosy, and as a result, his highly raised nose melted away and fell off. This is the effects of leprosy. Champakali Samahasta Paranguli Kunkara Hoilasab Kustegela Goli. The Brahman's toes and fingers were beautiful like golden-colored champak buds, but because of leprosy, they all withered and gradually melted away. So within 3 days, that Brahman was attacked by leprosy. Tindin bitere se viprer kushta hoila atiucha nashatara golia parila. Within 3 days, that Brahman was attacked by leprosy, and as a result, his highly raised nose melted away and fell off. Champakade sama hashtapananguli konkaran hoila sab kushtegela goli. The Brahman's toes and fingers were beautiful like golden-colored champak buds, But because of leprosy, they all withered and gradually melted away. It's the effect of leprosy. His toes and fingers all fell off. His nose fell off because of leprosy. Dekiya sakala log hoila chamatkar haridase prashamsi tari kore namaskar. Seeing the condition of Gopal Chakravarti, everyone was astonished. Everyone praised the influence of Haridas Thakur and offered him obeisances. So they could see the reaction that Gopal Chakravarti got. Insulted Haridas Thakur, said he would cut off his nose. But as a result, his own nose fell off, and his fingers and toes also. So I think I'll stop at this point. Tomorrow we'll continue. This fire is nice, huh? Makes you, yeah, it makes you tired. That's the effect I feel also.
After cook, I can't be tired.
Huh?
After cook, I can't be tired.
Yeah. And I have a Zoom meeting with the English devotees. Okay. Huh? Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama Jaravaya Maravaya Keshavaya Nama Jaravaya Maravaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinatham Marana Mohan Giridhari Gopinatham Marana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Garadara Shiva Sari Gora Bhakta Vrinda Garadara Shiva Sari Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatam Bhatta Raghunath Jai Rupa Sanatam Bhatta Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Hey Jai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Hey Jai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Jao Ike Vignana Shabista Puran Jao Ike Vignana Shabista Puran Hey Jai Gosai Jar Mui Taradas Hey Jai Gosai Jar Mui Taradas Dasabar Pada Renu Mora Panchagras Dasabar Pada Renu Mora Panchagras Tare Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibhas Tare Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibhas Janame Janame More Abhilas Janame Janame More Abhilas Hey Jai Gosai Jabe Braje Korabas Hey Jai Gosai Jabe Braje Korabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majayaman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majayaman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Harinam Sankirtana ko hai Narajamudas. Harinam Sankirtana ko hai Narajamudas. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Garanga Gan Gandharvika Giridhari Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishordas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Prem Sika Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Bhagwat Ki Jai. Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vishvavaranya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Nabadwip Dham Ki Jai. Sri Dham Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Sri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Sri Koladvip Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Sokel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Sevasham Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Sham Kuna Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Jo Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.